Knights at the Round Table, a round-table discussion on speculative fiction books and film. Welcome to Knights at the Round Table. Today we are discussing the absurdist comedy film Monthy Python and the Holy Grail. I am sitting at the table with Nathan and with Eric, and oh my lord, words. And I would like to start with general impressions of the film. Eric.
I am not someone who saw this as a kid, so it has none of the nostalgia value. I had watched it for the first time maybe 6 years ago because a friend of mine was like, "You haven't seen it? But I've been quoting it like crazy." I'm like, "Yeah, it's funny." The quotes were hilarious without the movie. And so I rewatched it again and had forgotten almost everything but the quotes, which is pretty much the only important part. I'm sorry. This feels like a series of YouTube sketches or just basic sketches put together as opposed to a coherent narrative.
Well,
Yes.
Of course it does. It's Monthy Python.
Yeah. Nathan.
Well, I'm a huge fan of Monthy Python. I didn't see it as a kid because I didn't speak English as a kid, but I saw it as a teen.
Oh, that's a kid. Anything under 25 is a kid.
Yeah,
My
but
teenage self wants to punch you right now.
I know, mine too.
well, I mean, like the things I watched as a teen don't have the same nostalgia factor as the things I watched and am still like die hard about.
Really? Oh, some of the stuff I watched as a teen had so much nostalgia. Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Well, but I still like Monthy Python. It's my favorite Monthy Python movie, and I love all of Monthy Python's movies. And that's the thing about Monthy Python is it is sketch comedy, and this was their first foray into like
Full
feature length.
Okay.
So obviously it was going to be sketch. And you look at things like Meaning of Life; it's also mostly sketches. But yeah, I love it. I know it by heart. It's one of my comfort food movies. I could probably quote it from beginning to end, starting with the weird song for the opening credits.
Oh my god. The opening credits. Okay. So, same for me. I watched this movie when I was in my early 20s. And the first time I watched this movie, I didn't laugh once. The entire time, my face was just like this.
Really?
Oh no.
And then the movie ended, and I was like, what the fuck did I just... What did I just watch? What is this nonsense? And then the more I thought about it, the funnier it became. And now I watch this movie and I'm rolling on the floor laughing, but the first time I watched this movie I was like, the hell is this nonsense? And that's just it. It's nonsense.
My friends did not explain anything. They just put that movie on.
Yeah, and then you sit down
And
then
you
you
sit
watch
down
it
and
you're
you
like,
watch the credits and you're like, what's going on with the subtitles?
oh my god, the subtitles are everything though. I was watching it this time around and I'm like, oh yeah, the subtitles! The moose! Oh, the moose! And then llamas.
Llamas.
I'd forgotten about the subtitles, and we watch with subtitles.
Yeah.
So my mother-in-law is like, "Why are the subtitles in Swedish?" And I'm like, "They're not. That's part of the joke." What? Oh.
I just loved everything about the moose. Like, and then they even started including it in the actual credits, like moose trained by Moose Effects.
Yes.
Moose
Yeah.
given thorough pounding and O levels in geography by such and such a person.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so... Just the opening credits had me laughing hysterically yesterday.
They also serve a great purpose because for people who are not used to Monty Python,
They set the tone.
They
the
set
tone.
the tone. So you're like, oh, I'm watching one of those movies.
Yeah.
Did you also notice that the disclaimer was signed Richard M. Nixon?
Yes. Nixon was a president who, at the time, was considered one of the most corrupt presidents in history for the U.S.
Are we now having to explain who Nixon
I think
is?
we have to explain who Nixon
Maybe
is
for
now.
some of the younger audiences,
He's
yeah.
the Trump of his time.
Yeah, he was the Trump of his time.
Yeah, except that he had a decent film career beforehand. In comparison.
In comparison, yeah, that's true.
But I think that the tone of the movie is very, very clear also from the very first scene where you have this like sort of ambient, fantasy-ish like fog over a mountain and then
heavy...
and then you hear the horse. And then it's just a guy walking like this up a hill with guys smashing coconuts. I mean, how could you not understand what you're in for with this opening?
But the other one was a good warning.
Yeah.
It's just a good warning because people react weirdly to absurd.
Yeah, it depends on the absurdity. Sometimes the absurd comedy doesn't land.
There's a reason that Monty Python plays really well in Britain and Canada, not so well in the States. They need a little bit more Mel Brooks level of...
The States need a little bit less absurd and more in your face.
Yeah.
And the British and Canadian comedies really have a little bit more subtlety, but also, like, way more out there absurd. Like, very absurd.
I was also impressed by how well this movie held up socially. There was nothing that made me, like, utterly cringe.
Same. And there's actually some social commentary in it that's still very much relevant.
Come and see the violence inherent in the system. Help! I'm being oppressed.
I feel very, very, very sad. For years, I thought the quote was, "Help, help! I'm being oppressed," and it's suppressed. I was like, oh, it made me sad.
I just a note. This movie is so much in the milieu, the comedy milieu, that it's quoted in The Strangest of Places. Okay,
this is probably the most quoted movie in other movies.
It's one of the most quotable movies of all time.
I was playing Assassin's Creed Unity, and I got into a fight with some of the bullies on the street, as you do in Assassin's Creed Unity, and one of the NPCs who was helping me was screaming, "Come and see the violence inherent in the system!" And I died because I was laughing so hard I couldn't fight anymore. I wish I had recorded it. I wish I had.
I've heard this quoted almost every
level
of, like, movie, from absolute serious to not.
Yeah.
I mean, when Trump was elected, people were going on, and people who I'm sure have never even seen this movie talking about how,
strange women in ponds
handing swords. It might be a good government system after all.
Yeah, right. Just because some watery tart threw a sword at you,
lopped the scimitar at your head.
Oh my god, where was it? So when you said that this felt like just a series of YouTube skits put together, absolutely correct. I can imagine this coming out as little short YouTube bits.
Yeah.
That you would watch
together.
Yeah. They involve the same characters, but they're all separate bits. Which, absolutely. I think that's one of its strengths, to be honest. But you could also just, like, put up a YouTube channel and just separate these out into their each little scenes, and it would be like Cyanide and Happiness. It'd be one of the funniest things on YouTube.
It's actually very much how British humor has evolved. You look at Monty Python's Flying Circus, but you also look at things like Mr. Bean or even Fawlty Towers. Like, they're all, like, just little skits that kind of string together into a whole.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's actually where a lot of comedy is going now.
Yeah.
Like, especially YouTube has adopted that method, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Because it's nice because it's not just disconnected. Like, there are some American comedy where for one scene goes into the other. It's the same characters, but there's no crossover. No British comedy, like Bean and this, they'll talk about
Coconuts and Swallows.
And Swallows, the first scene, and it'll come back later.
Yeah, it becomes
you'll
a
see
leitmotif.
You'll see what looks like a one-off gag about killing a historian, and it...
Oh, that ending! Ends. Oh my god, that ending. That's the end. That's the reason why I was just sitting on my couch the first time I watched this, just going...
Yeah, my mother-in-law was like... Again, I watch a lot of movies with my mother-in-law and my wife, and she was like, "Wait, is that how it ends? That's a terrible ending."
But it's perfect.
It actually ended like that because they ran out of budget.
Really?
Yeah, they couldn't finish the film properly, so they just had the policeman come in and cart everyone away. The end. And so that's how it happened. Actually, I don't think this movie would have gotten made except for, I can't remember his name. He's a British rock star. He read, because they've been chopping around the script looking for somebody to fund this film. Nobody would. Nobody would. And then this British rock star read it and called one of the guys over. One of the Terrys, maybe? I can't remember.
Terry Gilliam?
And was
Pratchett.
like...
No, wait.
No.
This basically said,
no,
this is hilarious.
He's quoted them a lot.
I'll give you money. And that's how the film got made.
Makes sense to me.
And it makes sense, because this is not something a big studio would be like, "Oh yeah, definitely."
But no, because it's a risky movie to make.
Oh god, yeah. There's nothing like it.
And I would argue that it's the inverse of what we talked about last time with Pacific Rim and my complaining. Pacific Rim was great the first time, has no rewatchability. This gets funnier and funnier the more you watch it.
And it actually starts making a little bit more sense, and you notice more and more things.
That depends on how much coffee or alcohol you've had, but yes.
You talk about the recurring motifs, so there's the swallows and the coconuts, that's one.
Surprisingly,
one of my favourite ones was the woman who is constantly beating a cat.
Yes!
She just shows up in random scenes, just beating a cat somewhere, and then she shows up later, she doesn't have the cat, so she's just beating a stick into the water. And it's that same lady, every so often, I think there's one scene where the cat gets stepped on, so there's random cat noises happening as well. It's just like, but it's funny. I don't know why it's funny, but
isn't it the same woman who's in scene 45?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's all kind of like...
Yeah.
Also, there's a scene called scene 45.
24.
24, scene 24.
Yeah, where they meet the old man in the... Which is a very good scene with some smashing acting.
I like that there are little background things. Yes. Always.
Yes.
So the more you watch, the more you'll see the details, and the more that jokes that you can consider like tertiary in the background, or you're like...
actually become like hilarious gags.
Yeah.
It's just like reading an Alex Ross comic book where like every image is this really intricate oil painting that has tons of little details and little like Easter eggs everywhere. If you just spend the time to look at it, you'll notice a bunch of things that you hadn't before.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, who's Alex Ross?
So he's an artist. He's traditionally does a lot of covers for comic books, but he does hyper-realistic oil painting, and he sometimes does entire graphic novels that way.
Oh
wow,
my
that's exhausting.
God.
Yes, so he doesn't do a lot of them, but he'll sometimes, like, I remember, I cannot remember the title of the series now because it was in the 90s.
Kingdom Come.
I think it was in Kingdom Come where he did these really elaborate landscapes. And you had little details like Sam Raimi's car and nice. You know, things like this all over where if you knew what you were looking for and you spend the actual time to look at the image instead of just reading the story, you would get all this additional content.
Mm-hmm.
There's also, sorry, just to change the subject completely. Back to, there's a genre savviness in this that...
Yes.
They're making fun of themselves, making fun of themselves.
Yeah.
The levels of...
Comedyception.
Yeah. It's really impressive that they're able to do that without it coming out as kitsch.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a huge amount of research and of realism of how medieval society was, how they dressed, how they, like, that you don't see in... serious quote-unquote movies set in that time period, and then they're like mimicking horses and banging coconuts together.
Yeah, and also like it's supposed to take part, they've set this at 932 AD, never mind that if King Arthur existed it would be around the 600 AD mark. Shh.
Well, Lancelot was in this, so obviously
they did get it right. They did get his title right, though. He was King of the Britons, not England. Big difference. And defeater of the Saxons. And then they just ran around calling it England anyway, which... Twitch. But anyway. Yeah. And then they used, like, castles that were built in the 1300s, 1400s. I mean, it can't be avoided. Those are the castles that are still standing in Britain. You don't have, with the exception of maybe one or two, you don't have castles that were built in 800, 900 still standing in Britain. You do in France, but not in Britain.
That's why the French were in this.
Yeah, that's why the French were in this, near as I can tell. I have one point about something that was hilariously funny, but it was hilariously funny because it was so biting, and that's the holy hand grenade bit, where they say, so that we may blow our enemies to smithereens in thy mercy. And then continues, and it's in thy mercy that got me so hard. I couldn't breathe for laughing, because it's true. Like, we're going to kill these people in thy mercy.
Yep. That's pretty much the Crusades right there.
Yeah, you're right. That's the Crusades.
My brain started singing Nobody Expects the Spanish Inquisition from...
Spamalot?
No, Mel Brooks has a version.
Oh, really?
History of the World.
Oh, History of the World.
At the end, basically ends with a bunch of monks singing about killing people.
Yeah, yeah, right. It cracks me up when
The 5, was that something?
One,
he kept
three,
1,
one,
2,
two,
5.
five, three, sir.
sir. Was that something just silly, or was there sort of meaning behind it?
I don't know.
No, I think
it was just silly.
I think it was just silly.
Can I bring up something extremely silly?
Yes.
Coconuts do migrate.
I
know they do.
That's how they
Yeah.
ended up where they are. They're basically just lazy
Because they
migrants.
float,
They just float
on the water and then hit land and start growing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the article was titled "Coconuts Migrate."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
Are you
What?
suggesting
Coconuts
coconuts
migrate?
migrate? They could have a swallow carried them.
I did love seeing they tied a pigeon to a coconut at
Yeah,
one point in
and
the
then
movie.
Yes,
Go.
That's it. That's the second time, like right when they meet Bedivere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's doing that, and that's the part of the little things that you notice, like, oh my god, look at what he's doing.
Yeah. You're just like, what?
Funny.
He's
My
testing.
first thought was that's not a swallow. Pigeons are easier to get.
One of my favorite quotes, just because it sounds so silly, is, "Very well, you make me sad."
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know why it's funny, but I giggle every single time. Just King Arthur, you make me sad.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to pout now.
That's, I think it's just before he fights the Black Knight.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched this with closed captioning, do it.
Yes.
Because there are the French specifically mumble a lot.
Yes.
And you don't hear all the jokes, but at one point there's like "Allons-y" or something like that.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Sorry, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Come
don't
with
actually
me.
speak
Yeah.
Every
French.
Yeah,
French
no, I know,
thing they
right?
say, they
They
have to repeat in English.
Pardon. What? Oh, present. Ooh. Oh my god! I think the most quoted line before I've heard some of the better ones was, "Your mother was a hamster and your
And
father
your father smelled of elderberry. Now go away, or I shall taunt you a second time.
Okay, this could devolve
Runs
into
away
just
from
nothing
ducks.
but
Yes.
quotes. Yeah.
Go away, Englishman who runs away from ducks.
Also, one of my favorite things are the monks who just run around going, Iesu Domine,
I like
Donaeis Requiem.
Yeah.
I like they're being attacked by a monster. And you can almost see the writer going, shit.
Yeah,
how did they get out of this?
How
They're
did they
totally
get out of this?
incompetent.
Yeah.
And then the
Animator
animator
dies.
God, it's just so dumb. I don't know why it's so funny, but it's really funny.
But it's smart dumb.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's a lot of research. There's a lot of cultural importance in the background without resulting in insulting jokes.
Yeah.
There's like
It's because it knows its source material so much. It knows exactly how to set up a certain set of expectations and then completely unravel
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But it does it
just
constantly.
so well.
And there's so many funny skits, like Galahad in the Castle Anthrax.
My favorite is the whole Lancelot
the
story.
run
Yes.
run that takes,
Oh yeah.
and they literally set him back, and then he's
Aha! Like, he's
And-
been looking at them come.
They managed to break rules of comedy with
Yeah.
it still being funny.
Yes.
Like that wasn't 3 times. It was 5.
Yeah.
Normally 3
3,
times.
5,
3 and 5.
3 and 5. There you go.
Ah.
Yeah.
Now I have to rewatch it
2,
for math.
5, 7.
But like when hey you, old woman. I'm not an old woman. I'm an old. That could
I'm a
have
man.
totally
Old
turned
man.
into a
Old
bad
man.
joke.
I'm 36.
37, I think.
But
old.
it
I'm
could
not
have turned into
old.
a bad, insulting joke towards women,
Yep.
or men, or,
Or
trans,
age.
or age, or anything. But it was just absurd.
Yeah.
And I like that about them. I like not having to cringe at a 40-year-old movie.
Yeah, they don't punch down. They
No.
don't
No,
punch
they
down
don't
at
punch
all.
down
Yeah.
ever. I really to the music, King Arthur's theme. That fanfare
Holy
is actually really
crap.
awesome.
My wife stopped and like she was crocheting and looked. That is epic.
I know, right? It's a great fanfare. I really enjoy it. I think
Yeah.
I might put it on my phone. This is gonna be my
That
ringtone.
would
That's
be
actually
an
a good
awesome
idea.
ringtone.
Except every time
Run
I'll just-
away!
Run away! Run away!
It's never retreat. It's run away.
Yeah.
Run away. Oh, the Sorcerer Tim Here's a little bit of trivia.
That wasn't supposed to be.
No, it wasn't supposed to be his name,
No,
but
It
he
was this
couldn't remember.
giant long name.
And then that's why the line looks the way that it does. There are some who call me Tim.
But he almost says it like a question.
Yeah.
Tim?
But I like how they are such well-trained improv skit
Yeah.
comedy people that nobody breaks.
No, they just go with it.
And that was the only
Oh,
take they
mighty
did.
Tim.
And then they integrated it. And
Yeah.
that's good comedy.
Yeah.
That would have killed some comedians. Just
Yeah.
like stopped it completely.
Yeah, I wonder how many times they broke, though. Like, they must have been so many times where they're just...
They probably didn't break that
No,
much because
I mean they've
it's
been
so
doing
expensive
flying
for film.
circus for so long too.
I mean,
like they're
that's true.
used to it, and most of them had done a lot on stage as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So they
Like
probably
look at John Cleese; he's so good at just like
they
Deadpan.
could probably
Deliver-
hold
oh,
it
yeah.
just until they said cut
And
and then break.
Then break.
Because the
Okay.
film was so expensive.
yeah.
Yeah. Which is why they ran out before they could finish it properly.
Yeah.
And so they just arrested everyone.
I would love to see the original script if
Right?
there was
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I love how Lancelot goes missing, but it's because he's been arrested.
Yes.
Lancelot! Lancelot!
And you just see him being
And
questioned.
you just see him, like, being patted down against a
Yeah.
police car. He's just like, what? What?
But it's also a good hint of what's going to come.
Yes, yeah, it is. Which makes me think that they probably added that whole historian murder scene to
Throughout,
make sense
possibly.
of the ending. Yeah. It's so weird and so... I don't...
The only time you see a horse.
Yes.
Yeah, some guy... Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I wonder how... Whoa. That's funny. Actually. It would have been... Yeah, that's weird.
I guess they wanted a little bit more authentic than guy with a coconuts coming by, pulling out sword, slicing and
I
going
guess...
by.
Yeah.
It's hard to handle a sword and coconuts at the same time.
Well, he would have his... Not a euphemism? Eric! How dare you!
I'm going to pretend to drink something.
I didn't notice anything.
All right.
God. Is there anything about the film you didn't like?
I mean, I'm biased. Well, I'm not biased. I love it because I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Anything I don't like about it is changing it would make me like the movie less.
Right. Yeah.
The format, the style, the lack of real storyline as opposed to thin narrative,
Mm-hmm.
all of that has to go with it for it to be absurd.
Yeah.
So I can't really say I wish there was a better storyline because I wouldn't want one.
Even the ending, you know, like for years the ending kind of bothered me, and I was like, oh, it's so weird. But then, you know, rewatching it, I'm just like, it fits. It fits the
with the
entire
everything
It does.
ridiculous about
Even
this
it
movie.
fits with the little weird movie at the beginning with the, you know, dentist.
Wait,
I didn't get that.
Oh, okay, the original theatrical
It's
release.
not on
of it.
every version.
Sorry?
Oh.
It's not on every version.
No, it's not on every
okay,
version.
I watched it
but
on
yeah, it's-
Netflix, so I didn't.
Oh
Yeah, I
yeah,
watched it
no.
on
The,
Netflix
on the
also.
DVD, there's like a little that showed in the theater. There's like a little pre-movie, a mini movie that they had back in the '70s. Sometimes at the beginning of a movie about a dentist.
Oh, well.
It's on
there you
DVD.
go.
So
Alright.
like the for our younger viewers, like they do with Disney and Pixar movies, they've got the short beforehand.
If there are younger viewers, I apologize for all my swearing.
Eh,
I don't really.
they have to learn the damned words eventually.
Eventually. Yeah. So, final thoughts and star rating, Nathan?
This was my introduction to Monty Python, and I've not stopped since. So for me, I know that it's my second 5-star in a short while, but it's Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
I'm gonna get hate for this. I like it. It's fun, but I'm not gonna search out more Monty Python for it. Like if it shows up as an ad or on someone's Facebook or YouTube, I'll be like, "Oh, cool, yay!" But I'm not gonna search it out.
Right.
So 3.5.
Oh.
Great, well-made movie, easily watchable, but not my thing.
Okay. So I'm going to fall smack bang in the middle at a 4. It's funny. The first time I watched it, Stop it. It's 4.25. This is right in the middle, but close enough. But at the first time I watched it, I was confused and
Should have given it a 5.5.
No.
5.5.
No.
No.
No, 5.5 because it's actually 3.5.
Just shh.
1, 2, 5.
I was confused and rattled, and I didn't get it at all, but the more I watch it, the funnier it gets, and I really love it. Because it is King Arthur, it is also one of my favourite comedies. Like, I love riffs on historical. It's like why Men in Tights will be one of my favourite comedies. Because it's the riff on Robin Hood, and I was a Robin Hood freak when I was a kid. Loved everything Robin Hood.
I can't wait to hear your thoughts on the new movie.
Which one?
The new Robin Hood movie that's coming out next year.
Oh god, they're doing
Again?
another one?
You haven't seen it?
No.
Oh, it's in the same fight style as the King Arthur that came out. And it's starring the kid from The Kingsman.
Oh.
It looks like Kingsman and Tarantino had a baby and decided to make it Robin Hood. It looks both horrible and wonderful at the same time.
Someone should call Hollywood and tell them there are other stories.
Robin Hood is the most remade story in all of it.
I'm well aware.
It's not even the original Robin Hood. That belongs to the Welsh.
Well, yeah, no, of course. I don't think this will be anything like any other Robin Hood. So, let's pick another movie.
The Mummy.
Which one?
The one from 1999.
Oh dear
The one with
God.
what's his
Brendan
name?
Fraser.
Encino
Old
Man.
school Brendan Fraser.
He makes me sad. Sorry,
What?
what happened to his career?
Oh, I was
What
going to
happened
say,
to
he
his
makes
career?
me happy.
I'll talk about it offline. It's a long rant.
All right. So if you have any thoughts about Monty Python and the Holy Grail, or you just want to quote the movie, leave it down below.
We will
I
quote
be
along with you.
Yes. You make me sad. Thanks very much, guys. If you have other movies to suggest, by the way, also we'll be taking those in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Bye!
Welcome to Nights at the Round Table.
We dance for a rainbow. Let's not go there. It's a silly place. Okay.